Hi everyone, my name is Naya. I'm a Soul Collective youth organizer. Soul Collective is a community-based nonprofit partnership whose mission is to provide artistic, cultural, and educational programming, prevent social justice, and empower youth through art, activism, music, and media experience. Okay. Today's mini curriculum will cover the events that led to the Chicano Movement and the founding of the Brown Berets organization. This workshop will be led by the National Brown Beret Sacramento unit. Now I'm going to be passing it on to Josie.
Well, thank you so much, Soul Collective. We truly are honored to be part of this and also to be able to pass along some information to everyone that is participating this evening. And thanks for joining on a Friday night. We're super excited. So let me start with a few introductions. My name is Josie, and I am the Capitana of the National Brown Berets Sacramento unit. And we also have the entire unit here this evening. We have Javier, Christian, Mallory, and Stephanie. Now, these four individuals are the original members of the Sacramento unit. We did have a Brown Beret unit back in the 60s. Very nice people that we were able to meet and talk a little bit and go over some history together at the Raza Day that was over this summer at Southside Park. So we're truly honored to be here tonight. An hour is going to go by real quickly, so I think what we'll do is I will just give a little bit of history and background of the Brown Berets and how that applies to today and how we are dealing with racial inequality currently. And then we'll wrap it up, 45 minutes of chatting, and then open it up to everybody here. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to share with us, we'd be happy to have a great conversation with everybody that's attending. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here this evening. I do want to encourage everyone to check out on YouTube a PBS series that came out in 1996. It's titled Chicano, History of the Mexican-American Civil Rights Movement. That is a 4-part series, and it gives a really great detail background of the entire movement from 68 to 75. And it does touch on what we're discussing tonight. So I encourage everybody to watch that in your free time. That series is part of our curriculum for our new recruits within the National Brown Berets. We have that for them to watch, and then we also give them a little quiz to make sure that they are actually watching it and have a great discussion of what we've learned as well. So I want to encourage everyone to watch that when you have time. So let's just start. So let's go back to 1968. That is when the Vietnam War was happening. And as that was continuing on, it was beginning to understand that Latinos died at a higher rate during the Vietnam War. And that was during the civil rights movement, a lot of civil unrest, and that really hit hard, especially in East LA. You have to understand that at that time, East LA was one of the largest barrios in all of the United States. So you have families that are middle class, working class poor, parents who had already been through other very hard times working in the fields, the Zoot Suit riots, and then we also had the riots in Watts as well. So there was a lot going on at that time. School children, for some reason, the Latino community within that school board and those school districts in East LA, they were becoming to look at as a threat. Education at that time for their parents was a hope. It was the American dream. And they wanted their children to have a better opportunity in life than they had. And they were very big on public education, as well as a path to college education so they can have a great career. But the reality is, at that time, 1 out of 4 Chicanos completed high school. They were pushed out. And also as well at that time, unemployment was very high and the jobs that they could secure were very low wages. So try and think of these things as current day as it applies to you today in the United States as well. So because of that, the children suffered. They were discriminated. They were discriminated over not being able to speak English, the types of foods that they were brought to school for their lunch. They were made fun of that. They were ashamed, and they're becoming to be ashamed of being Mexican. They were becoming to be ashamed of their own parents because they did not fall within with the other students, predominantly white students. They were encouraged to fit in, but they couldn't because they were different. The school also had it set up at that time where they had separate tracking system. So you had the college-bound students, and then you had vocational work. So the college-bound students obviously were the white students, and then the vocational work went to the Black and brown children in East LA, predominantly brown. So if we think about that today, that vocational learning in school is now completely gone. So those options aren't even there today for our college students and our high school students. Because of that, the students there began to become angry. They realized that others were experiencing the same. Not just their high school, but all the other high schools as well. Segregation was supposed to have stopped, but at the same time, they were still being segregated within their own school. The LA County Sheriff would have access to their schools, and they would go onto the campus. They would pull out the Chicana children out of high school, out of their classes. They would harass them. They would search their lockers. They had free reign on those high school campuses to do whatever they want in any way. The school board didn't care. Most of the teachers, as well as the school administration, allowed that to happen. So think about that time. If you were alive then, everywhere that you turn, just trying to get to school and get a great education and have a better life for yourself and your family, you're hit every time. The minute that you step out your door, you're being discriminated because you're Mexican. So these young students, high school students, begin to hear the same stories from their other members that lived in their community, other school children, and they decided that they were going to make a survey. They had finally had enough of the way that they were being treated on campus in school. Again, these are high school students. And so they decided to band together and create a survey amongst each other and what their main complaints were. And they wanted to bring it to the school board. And it really just boiled down to the basic things like not being harassed, to be served better school, food. And then also to the main concern that they had was not being allowed to go to college. They did not have the classes, they did not have the support for them to finish high school and go on to college and have a better life. So that really became a bone of contention for those high school students. They were receiving poor education. They couldn't read, they couldn't spell, there was no bilingual instruction. Inferior education was purposely given to them so that way they can just go on and become cheap labor. Nobody believed in these children that they would have any purpose or any hope of going on to college. So those thoughts and those dreams that they had at that time were totally squashed. At the same time, the parents did not quite understand what these children were going through because the parents worked very hard. They wanted their kids to be in school and they wanted them to go to college. And the parents really didn't understand because they weren't on campus. They were not subjected on campus of all the discrimination that their kids were subjected to. So being hardworking people that they are, they told their kids to just deal with it, to put up with it, that get through it, don't make any noise, be a good student, be a good kid when you're on campus, you'll be fine. And they weren't. The reality was that things were changing and the students had enough of the way that they were being treated. And it was hard for them. It was hard for them not to have support from their own families and from their parents, as well with the Vietnam War going on and having that knowledge that our people were being killed at a higher rate and trying to have that conversation with their parents about that and that they're not in support of the war when they had maybe an uncle or a grandfather or their dad had served in prior wars and those family members felt proud to be part of those wars. But this was a different war. So there was a lot going on at that time for those high school students. This had been going on for quite a few years. So you have high school students that were there and high school students that had already graduated that were able to go on to college. So try and keep that in mind with those college students as well, okay? So once they did the survey, they brought it to the school board, and of course, the school board didn't care. They did not even really listen to what the students had brought to their attention and basically just dismissed them. But these meetings continued to go on because the students understood, because they could see protests happening on the streets, on their television, of different social injustices that were going on at the time, that they became aware that that might be a route for them to bring not just attention to their barrio in East LA, but nationwide of the way that they were being treated. So they formed a little group called the Young Citizens for Community Action. They were a community civic-minded activities. They were thinking about their community, right? Then eventually they changed it to Young Chicanos for Community Action. That change made them culturally aware of their background and their race and their history and asserting their real identity. They took on that name of being Chicano because they realized that if they were to understand their history, they were to have pride in who they are as people, then they could all come together and they could be even more solid in bringing up these issues that they were dealing with in school. Later on, they changed that name to Brown Berets. And that was when they were getting involved within the community. And they realized that the system wouldn't change unless they became more direct. So you have the Brown Berets, and the berets were actually taken from the war that was going on, even their uniform, to bring not only awareness, but also to try and take power over that and to have those conversations with other people, including their families, of how bad this war is for them as well as worldwide. So that's when the Brown Berets were formed. They had a great teacher. His name was Sal Castro. He was a history teacher. And so he would meet with these students after school. They would talk about what was going on in class, what was going on in campus. He was able to give them that sense of identity because he had lived through some things already growing up in that area. So he understood what these young people were going through, and he supported them. He also understood the problem and the disconnect that they had within their family or their parents. He was able to help them organize, and the Brown Berets were there as students as well. And that's when the high school students decided that they were going to do a walkout. That was the way that they were going to get attention of what was going on, and they felt that the school board would finally take them serious and actually make some changes that they had been asking for years. So there was 16 schools that actually were involved in those walkouts. A total of 10,000 students at one time participated in these walkouts. So think about where you were at in your neighborhood and you have a high school. I was born and raised here in Sacramento. My high school was Sac High, and I would walk to school, and lived very close to my high school. But to think that all of these students finally were able to get together and decide to make this statement and have these walkouts, the school board wasn't ready for it. None of the teachers were ready for it. But this was a peaceful protest. There was no violence in regards to the students. And these high schools were in their neighborhoods. So even the neighbors and the families didn't know that that was going on until they just said, walk out. And the students started to walk out of their schools. They walked out, they went to the lawn, they went to the football field, they stayed on campus. They just walked out of their classes to show solidarity. And like I said, to bring that information out and to get the attention of the school board. The Brown Berets were blamed for the walkouts. You have Brown Berets that were high school students, but you also have Brown Berets that were already college students. So once those students got to college and they had a wider understanding of the world and a wider type of education before them, they understood that it was very important to be, no, actually, it wasn't all high schools in California. It was actually high schools in East LA. So the 16 high schools that were in East LA did that walkout. Also, too, the Brown Berets were already labeled as outside agitators, even though they were college students that were supporting the high school students. So think about it. You have an older brother or sister who's in college, you're still in high school, and that's the connection that you have, or a cousin. And so they're of course going to support you because they're happy to see that you're starting to get this worldview and understand that you have a voice, right? Also too, there was the Watts riot, like I mentioned, that it happened prior, and that Watts riot created DART, which is the Disaster and Riot Training. And so DART was called in to the barrios when the students walked out. So now you have militarized sheriffs, specially trained police that are there to break up the walkouts. And the way that they broke up the walkouts was by beating these students, shooting at students. We did lose Brown Berets. We did lose students at that time. And all of this played out right in the neighborhood. So you've got people that live there by the high school that are seeing and hearing all this going on. And then all of a sudden, sheriff are coming into your neighborhood. And then it's just cars everywhere and sheriffs with guns, sheriffs with shotguns that are now trying to break this up by shooting people, by dragging the students off of campus and beating them right in front of you on your front lawn. Even the bystanders that were there that lived in those neighborhoods, those people too were being beaten because, you know, according to the sheriff, we all looked alike. So they didn't know who was a student, who wasn't, but everybody was there and they were going to get beaten. So that is when the parents realized finally that what their children was telling them was true, and it was even worse than what they had been told. Because up until that point, the parents, again, had supported this American idea, the American dream. We're all good, hardworking, civil, law-abiding citizens, and we pay our taxes. But why is my child being beaten on campus or being dragged off of campus and is being beaten on the streets, as well as being filmed? And FBI is there. They're taking pictures of everybody that is part of this walkout. Out of that, 13 people were arrested, including Sal Castro, the history teacher. So they were termed the East LA 13. Bobby Kennedy at the time was on his way to California to show support for the United Farm Workers and for Cesar Chavez during his hunger strike. He had met with the students. He understood what the students were going through before all of this happened with the sheriff coming in, and actually gave his support to those students. So they had hope. But then after that, as I said, they were beaten, people were arrested, and then soon after that, Bobby Kennedy was killed. So that was a really hard thing for people at that time to understand. But that's when the parents really became involved. Sal Castro was no longer allowed to be a teacher. He wasn't allowed to be back on campus. He was a well-loved teacher, including some other teachers that were arrested. And that's when the parents not only demanded that the 13 people that were arrested, including Sal Castro, be released, but they demanded that Sal Castro be reinstated as a teacher and be allowed back onto school at the beginning of the new school year. So the parents became organized. And they actually did a sit-in at the board building in that room where the school board would meet. They were there for 7 days. They refused to leave. They kept putting out their demands to the school board of the changes that the students had deserved and what they had been demanding prior that they hadn't received. They were also threatened to be arrested if they didn't leave, but they refused to leave. So with the support of the students and the community, those families, the parents stayed in that school board building until the 7th day when the school board finally said, okay, we're going to meet and we're going to vote. And we will put a vote and see if Sal Castro is allowed to be reinstated or not. They took a vote. All the school board had voted yes, one voted no. And so that was a great victory for the parents, for the students, and for the school, and especially for Sal Castro, because he was allowed back into school as a history teacher and be able to teach what he felt and believed in, and to help these young students actually get a better education. So that is how the Brown Berets started. And I'm really excited because when we were asked to give this presentation, to be able to have this conversation and to be able to share this information with anybody, but especially young students, young people, it's very important to have that understanding, but also to try and think about how that affects you today. And I'm sure that a lot of people have somehow experienced some type of discrimination within just the Zoom meeting that we're having tonight, this little webinar. I would really like everybody to kind of think about that and what the students went through as compared to today. We have, since the George Floyd protests, we have shown, especially here in Sacramento, that community can get together. We can get together within an hour. You know, we can put it out to the networks, we can reach out to everyone and say, hey, there's a protest here, let's assemble, let's go. And we will have people there. We've shown it time and time again in Sacramento with community and activists and organizers. We're able to assemble, we're able to do it, we're able to march, we're able to protest and raise our voices. That is not a problem. But we also have to think in a bigger picture about organizing, because that's actually what's going to bring about change. So if you do the mobilizing and the organizing together, then you have a very powerful way of bringing about change. And that's what those young students did when they were there on campus. They were able to mobilize, they did their walkouts, and they continued to organize. They continue to organize among their campus, within their neighborhoods, as well as working with college students. So you've got college as well that's being aware of what's going on, as well as using the media. All outlets that they had available to them, those young students realized that that was there for them to be able to get the information out and for the world to see how they had been treated. Because this wasn't happening just in East LA, right, at that time. This was happening all across the United States. So in other states, you had schools that were segregated that were no longer segregated. And so then you had the board and you had administrators as well as teachers that we're still working against those children that were rightfully allowed to be there and to get a good quality education and a roadmap to college so they can have a better life and be able to live that American dream. So for me, I think it's really important that we continue to do that, and we continue to have those discussions, to review what's happened in the past, to be able to learn from it and be able to implement that in current times. So for me personally, I'm very happy that I am able to be a Brown Beret. I feel very honored and very lucky to be able to be in leadership. And that is our goal, is for everybody to be able to grow and to learn and to be able to understand what is at stake, but as well as to be able to fulfill the passions that they have themselves and become great leaders as well. So for example, within my unit, we have Mallory, who was the first person to reach out to me. She is a college student. She works as well, and she helps and works very hard to help support her family. And I'm very thankful for Mallory. Mallory herself has had that experience of trying to share her passion for civil rights and for racial equality within her own family, as well as being able to step outside and become her own person and to grow and change and become a real true activist that she is today. We have Christian, who is another great person. There he is. And Christian is an amazing artist and musician. He's a DJ and very well known here in Sacramento, but has a great giving heart. Christian's passion, one of his many passions actually, is helping our houseless community. So Christian has put together quite a few outreaches that we have done, and we still have another one that's coming up, and in between him working and doing other projects that he has. But he was able to work for Project Room Key and was able to see firsthand how the houseless community is being taken care of and how they're being treated and what their true needs are. Then we also have Stephanie, who herself, with a friend of hers from work, had put together an amazing event last year, which was a Day of the Dead altar for Black Lives Matter, which was in Southside Park. And that's how we met Stephanie, because she had reached out to one of the organizations here in Sacramento asking for security. And so we were able to go there and we met and were able to talk more, and she was very interested in becoming a Brown Beret, and she is one today, and I'm very happy that she's here. And then we have Javier also, who is a college student, and his main focus is cybersecurity. And I've known Javier for a very long time. He's very passionate as well in activism. And so together, it's really great to see everybody come together, get to know each other, build friendships and build relationships, but also to bring their own interests, and for me to be able to see their strengths and understand who they are individually and be able to help them and lead them in growing in their positions, as well as helping the Brown Berets grow, and become even stronger. That is our goal. We do have a unit in Oakland. That is our sister unit. That unit actually was formed in the 60s. And actually, if I can have access to share a screen, that would be great. And then I can show you everybody some photos that we have, some black and white photos. So let me know when I'm able to do that.
You should be able to do that now. Let me know if not.
Okay, let me see if I can figure this one out, guys. Okay, so here we go. So since 1967, so you see, this is our motto: to serve, observe, and protect. The Brown Berets, like I said, were created back in those times because of how the sheriff and the police treated those students. Like I said, the families back then believed that the sheriff and the police were there to protect them. And once the students saw, no, they're actually turned against us, the Brown Berets were in turn the ones to be there to provide security for the students. And that's what they did. And that's what we continue to do today. We will provide security. We also serve our community through outreach programs. We've done a lot in the last couple of years, and also to be able to observe. So other organizations will ask us to provide security or to support them, to help them organize different community events. And we're always happy to do that. Here's a couple of other pictures here. So you can see the photo on the bottom with the young man with the poncho. That was actually their clinic. So the Brown Berets had opened up a free clinic in East LA. They worked very closely with the Black Panthers. And so this is their contribution to that barrio, was a free clinic. That's where they had their meetings, but the majority of the work for the free clinic was run by the women that were Brown Berets as well. Then we have another picture here with Cesar Chavez, Brown Berets, and then also to a rally in Oakland. So you see a young Brown Beret there. And this is some more pictures here of different Brown Berets at different events in time. And then you have pictures of the women in as Brown Berets. And then this was the invasion of the Santa Catalina Islands, that the Brown Berets were there. These are some pretty historic photos I'm sure most everybody is familiar with. These pictures right here make me so happy when I see them, because these are from Oakland. So this is when Huey with Black Panthers was on trial. You will see Black Panthers there. You will see Brown Berets there. You'll see the yellow pearl there. All these people, all the people in these photos were neighbors. They all lived next to each other. They were all very close in Oakland. And the young man that is over here with the beret, his name is Mario Ortiz. He's one of the original Brown Berets for the Oakland unit. He's very well and alive today. And he gave his blessing for us to reinstate the Oakland Brown Beret unit. He was very happy when he was approached with that idea, and extremely happy to hear that the Brown Beret unit that was going to be formed was going to be the first and only all-female Brown Beret unit. I'm one of the original members, and we have 3 other members as well that live in Oakland. But since I live in here in Sacramento, I was given the task to create a Sacramento unit. And I'm so happy that I was able to do that and continue to do that today. But this right here shows the unity. This shows neighbors together, getting to know each other, being able to understand of what everybody is being subjected to and the racial inequality that's going on within their own neighborhood, being able to organize and being able to stand up and fight for their rights and to be heard. And these organizations are still here today. There's still the Yellow Pearl. We still have the Black Panthers in Oakland, as well as the Brown Berets. These are some pictures of the walkouts. The lady right here, that's Cynthia Barajas, and she is still alive and well today. She still lives in East LA, and she's very active as well. She's still a Brown Beret. And then we have some more photos as well. So here's some notes, and these are the activities that they had started that we continue to do today. So you'll see that they opened free medical clinics, they opened Chicano charter schools, businesses, community centers. We still provide and we perform security at all events. They became personal guards for Cesar Chavez, other people, workshops, as we're doing today. And we also work very closely with local organizations on immigration and politics. They started hundreds of Chicano organizations, opened the free breakfast program for kids, as did the Black Panthers, and as well as confronted the police on every level. this day and age here, that is an important aspect, and that is something that everybody has to take into account for themselves. How far are you willing to stand up for your rights? There are other ways that you can confront the police on different levels. So I highly encourage people to become involved in your community. Start attending those, city council or board of supervisor meetings. That would be a great way for you to start to understand just the basics of what's really going on in your community. And then you're able to see that if there's something that's really you want to have change or something that you're very concerned about, that not only are you speaking publicly and directly to your board of supervisors or your city council, but you also have other community members that feel the same way as you, that are able to bring about change and public policy change. So that is very important. So right here, something I like to ask everybody that's on here, have you ever been discriminated? Right? Is this country really tolerant today? Is racism over? As well as if you would step in if you saw somebody being harassed. So the need of the Brown Berets. So here we show that racism is renewed position in mainstream politics. We know that already. We've lived through that with the previous presidency as well as today. Violation of our civil rights. We fight for educational rights, undocumented rights. We want to bring an end to gang violence. Also fight for our people in the LGBTQI community. We fight against machismo. Macho ideals are no longer needed in this community. And it's very wonderful to be able to say that being a female, being a Brown Beret, that I haven't experienced that. Our leaders who are men support us, encourage us, and has never once talked down to me or anybody else. We wouldn't put up with that in the first place. That was part of the downfall of the Brown Berets because the women were not respected by their leader. And so the women left and they took all the new recruits as well. But by then, they had already been infiltrated. So that was the beginning of the end for the Brown Berets, the end of 1972. They didn't starting to come back into play until 2005. And that's when the National Brown Berets were formed. Economic and social disparities are growing, and our future generations are being destroyed through assimilation and as well as losing our sense of culture. That might seem a little extreme to say that we are being destroyed, but if you really look at it, you will see that a lot of our culture is being lost. And so we have to fight for that. We have to be able to show that to our future people to see that they understand what their history is. And so they are able to take pride in who they are, as well as continue to fight for their rights, as well as the rest of the community, because we work with the community. We're very close to a lot of the organizations here in Sacramento. We've worked really hard to do that. So we're not only here for our Raza, but we're here for the entire community to help bring about change for not just for us, but for everybody. So that is something that's rather important, I feel. That's really, thank you. That's really about it that I have. And like I said, this time would go by really, really quick. So if it's okay, if you guys want to have a conversation, I know it's kind of hard in a Zoom environment to just have everybody, unmute themselves. But if you have any questions, any thoughts, ideas of what I talked about, please go for it. So I see in the chat here we have, okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Sacramento is a powerful city and organization is definitely community work, that is for sure. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts of what I've shared?
I have a question actually. I go to a high school in Sacramento called the Met Sacramento. We're in learning through internship school, and I was wondering if you would be willing to ever accept an intern under you guys? Because I know there's a student that's interested in interning for the Brown Berets.
Yes, we love the Met. We love the Met, and we're so thankful that I personally am thankful that the Met is here. I wish the Met was around when I was in high school, but we've worked closely with the school and with the teachers there in different protests and different actions as well. Particularly with the the International Women's Day, when we had the separate women of color contingent, and we were asked to provide security for that women of color contingent. So we do have an age limit as far as becoming a Brown Beret, which is 18. But as far as having somebody to learn more and to be able to become a Brown Beret, we're always open to that. So definitely, we would be happy to meet anybody and talk more. And to me, that's something that I've learned over time, having those one-on-one conversations. So whether you're a individual, if you're interested in organizations, if you're interested in being an activist, even a community organizer, once you start getting into that arena, I encourage everybody to have one-on-one conversations, not only within the organization that you're in, but also outside of the organization. So in regards to younger people that you look up to as leaders, if you have teachers, anybody that you look to as a mentor, definitely want to encourage you to have those one-on-one conversations and get to know that person and let that person get to know you. I do that a lot within different organizations that I am part of, because that builds trust, number one. We get to understand each other on a more personal level, and we're able to understand when we're trying to get a project going, or we're going for a grant, or whatever it is, that we understand each other, and we have that basic friendship and trust there. We might not always agree, but at the end of the day, we're there working for the same goal, for the same vision. So yeah, definitely. We have an Instagram account, and that's how we are able to have contact with the public, so they can direct message us. I monitor that Instagram account, and everybody else in my unit has access to that Instagram. We're not on Facebook, only because Instagram is much easier to manage and to get that information out of the different events that we're part of, or different, and as well as share with other organizations, what they've got going on as well. So, but yeah, thank you so much. So I believe in our chat, Christian has put down the email. So it's nationalbrownberets916@gmail. And our Instagram is 916 National Brown Berets. Anyone else? Any thoughts, questions, anything that you want to share? Any type of discrimination that you faced? How did you deal with it? How would you help someone else if you felt that they were being attacked or discriminated against? Anyone? Sure, Kim.
Hi. Is there a method on how you guys solve problems within your own chapter? Do you guys have like a way of solving problems within, kind of like a staircase of how to solve problems?
Well, yeah, we, the National Brown Berets, we still follow the military style of hierarchy in a sense. So you have your soldiers, you have, lieutenant, blah, 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 and national commander. But I like the fact that our unit is small, so we can talk to each other individually, together as a group, be able to spend time together and get to know each other. We really haven't come across anything that we needed to discuss, but but everybody here within my unit, they do have access to the national commander. They have access to other leaders that are in higher command. And so they are able to talk with them anytime, give them a call, shoot them a text if anything comes up. We meet as a unit, we try and meet once a month to go over any upcoming events. This year is definitely different compared to last year and the year before. But it's been nice to be able for us to take a little time, regroup, focus on other activities that we're involved in, school, work, family life, and be able to come together for different events as well. But that's how we just talk it out. If there's any issues that do come up, we all know that we're able to be honest with each other and talk things out. MXA Thomas, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I had a question. You guys said that you do kind of like security or you stand up to the police. And I missed the beginning of the meeting, and I would love to just like hear an example of how that would work, because I really love to be more involved. But yeah, I know that I personally experienced going through the protests of last year, and to see how organizations handle going up against the police has really made me want to be absolutely clear before I move, in the step to being an activist, because I have a very high goal of meeting Jesus long after 100. And, you can't do that.
Yeah.
With, messy conflicts with the police.
Exactly. No, that's very true. We are asked to be security. We're also part of several organizations here in Sacramento, and we work very closely with different organizations. So there are other organizations that have their own security detail. And so depending on the size of the event, that is, the organizers will ask, for us to be part of that. The largest one that we were security detail, and we were able to bring pretty much everybody that we knew, even from outside of Sacramento, was the No More Kids in Cages protests that we had. Only because the Recall Gavin Newsom people had seen that we had that event and decided to have another event the same day, same time over at the state capitol. So that was a very large. So we had a large amount of security. We had some people in black bloc. We were in our uniform. We also had people that were blocks away so they could see if any Trump supporters, Gavin Newsom type people, Proud Boys were even coming close to Cesar Chavez Park. So that way we could have them be stopped from even getting close. We actually, when we do security for events, we are there to de-escalate. During the George Floyd riots, obviously, as we all know, there was a lot of Proud Boys that came out of the woodwork here in Sacramento. And so we had to always be on high alert and be able to work with other people that had trained in security and be able to communicate in different ways to be able to not allow those Proud Boys anywhere near the events. We are there to be calm, and we are there to help the protesters, the marchers, to get through their route safely. We also take into consideration, like you said, our own personal safety. So that is always in the back of my mind. So when I am approached and I'm asked, because I'm the Capitana by another organization, for us to be available for security, I am in charge of getting all of the information from those organizers. I'm also sometimes I'm asked to, depending on the size of the protest, to have a large crew of people. Since there's 5 of us, we do have our sister unit in Oakland. And like I said, there are other organizations that have security detail as well. So we've worked with them quite a bit, especially during that time. But the main thing is for us to de-escalate when we can. We were never in a situation where the police was after us. It was always before the event and leaving the event, having to be aware of our surroundings and making sure that everybody that participated got home safe, got to their cars safely, and everybody was okay. But we do have our own training. We do have some organizations that we train with. So that is our own personal safety, as well as gun safety. And we also have other organizations that now that COVID is kind of getting under control, we can get back in touch with and learn basic safety measures. We do have safety gear for ourselves individually. So that's always a good thing. But we've been very fortunate through the George Floyd riots that none of us were injured. And the people around us were not injured. And we were able to have every event that we were part of as security be successful and people not being injured. But that is always the number one thing. That's always the number one in my mind. And if we feel that there's things that are not safe, then we're not going to go. We did not go to any of when the Proud Boys would come down every Saturday after the election because they weren't happy with the election. So they would come downtown, yell and scream, march around the state capitol. That was something that we weren't part of. We were not part of standing up against them and chasing them around downtown because we were deep in COVID. We also are here to protect our community, our Raza. And again, the Chicano community was hit the hardest with COVID. So if we're telling our people, our family to stay home and not be in these big crowds and to wear your mask, but they see us out there in public on TV, that was sending a mixed signal. So we were asked by our leadership not to do that. We had to stay safe and we had to show our community ways of staying safe. So it was organizing free COVID shot clinics, organizing food distribution, different ways of helping the community during that time. Instead of running around with Proud Boys yelling and screaming over a state capitol. We all have our own personal feelings about that. And also to the large police presence. So it just made absolutely no sense at the time to be part of that. We knew that they would go away and they eventually have gone away. But we have dealt with this in the past, I personally in the past with Nazi skinheads. So I've always known they've been around. But personal safety and keeping everybody safe is the number one reason why we're asked to provide security by the event organizers. So for example, we'll be there this Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day on Alcatraz to provide security for the Indigenous groups as well as the public and have that be a safe, clean, alcohol and drug-free event and have a beautiful event to make sure that everybody's safe on Alcatraz and as well as get back to San Francisco safely. I think I saw another little hand. No, anybody? Ken, was that you?
I have another question actually.
Yes.
So I was wondering if you guys would be interested in somehow or someone documenting some of your guys' work through a zine. I'm personally really into zines. And I was thinking that maybe documenting your guys' work through a youth's point of view would be really cool and wondering if that's something that you guys would want to work on.
I see everybody nodding their head. Christian, Mallory, what do you guys think?
I actually really like that idea. I think it'd be a good way of, kind of showing what the organization is about, a little bit more of who we are, and, what, we do for the community and, especially your work and Christian's work. You guys are always out there doing outreach, and I feel like, a little zine would be super awesome. And especially, getting a youth, involved with the work that we do. I think that would be great.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Maria, you had a question? Your hand's up.
Hi, I'm a high school student also, and I was wondering like if you guys like I know that the other person had already asked you about internship. Is there any way like I can contact someone about that or like
Sure.
yeah, because yeah, I've seen you guys. You guys are always at our ceremonies for danza and like protecting us. And I'm gonna be at Alcatraz on Monday too, dancing. So yeah, I've always just looked up to you guys, and I think I've always wanted to like yeah. So should I like email the email that you put in the chat?
Sure, Maria, that would be great. And thank you so
Okay.
much. And we're always happy to to be there for the danzantes. I mean, I get all happy and my little heart. I'm like, yay, they're here. So it's you're all so beautiful. And it like I said, it's an honor for us just to be asked. But definitely please email us
Okay.
and we will keep in touch for sure.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you on Monday. Come up and say hi.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Hopefully after, the pandemic is, less of a problem, we could celebrate you at our CBO Soul Collective.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We're just happy to work with you guys and this was just awesome. It really was. And it was great to see new people and thank you for the time that you've given us to be able to give this presentation. I hope it made sense. I tend to ramble, but you will definitely see other people in this unit that will be talking more and taking over and leading as well. So we're really excited, but we would love to get together with everybody and just celebrate life, Thank you.
It is 7 o'clock. If anyone has any last minute questions, they're still on. If you have anything to say or just, thanking them, anything really. If not, I think that could be a wrap. Unless you guys have anything else to say. I really appreciate you guys sharing the space with us.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Let's see. I think, no, I do see that there was somebody in the chat that direct messaged me. So I'm going to write that information down. If anybody has any questions for Mallory or Javi or Stephanie or Christian, please do. If not, thank you so much, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for having us. Thank you, Josie, for leading the webinar. You did an amazing job. I'm excited to work with many of you who are going to reach out to us. And this is great. I really enjoyed this. And I just want to say I'm proud of everybody here.
Most definitely. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you, Soul Collective. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.